are about to participate in a great adventure.
This is Wolfgang Fair.
And Pete Cody.
Studio A, Westbury, New York.
We're here to talk about hockey. And later on the Jets, but let's talk about hockey.
All right.
So, the league is locked out again.
Yay.
Last year, wow. Back in, 2004, they locked out and they missed an entire season. And now, 7 years later, they're at it again, and it looks like they could miss a long time, maybe even the whole season.
It's a possibility. I mean, they have been in talks the past 4 days.
Yeah, they've been talking, but, I mean, talks are great. Let's hear about, whether they're actually going to be actually making progress. And I don't even think they have yet. I mean, it's just not good.
No, I don't think so either. I think what it is you got a big circle to go on right now.
Yeah.
And it's we're talking. Great, talk all you want to, talk until your voice goes, but
they're not making progress.
You're not making progress. You're not getting anything done.
And it's just absolutely horrendous. It makes no, it sucks because you understand why the owners are doing it. They need to make, they're trying to get the best possible financial system so that they can make more money, which unfortunately it's a business. That's the way you have to look at it, but it's happened already once. Why does it have to happen again? Why does it have to happen again?
Well, it's the same thing with the referees and the NFL. It's all about the CBA, and if you don't want to agree on it, then it's both sides are going to suffer.
It is, except they just did this. They fixed the problem once back in 2005 when they came out of the lockout. They thought they fixed the problem, and what happened was the real problem isn't the CBA wasn't good. It wasn't a flawed system. The problem was the owners were giving 15-year contract. The general managers, who happen to be former backup goaltenders, give the starting goaltender a 15-year contract, even though he's hurt every year.
DiPietro.
Exactly. I mean, and even then, all these other guys are getting 12, 15-year contracts. How can you even know what's going to happen for the guy 3 years from now? I mean, look at Sidney Crosby.
Exactly.
They were about to give him a big contract, and they hadn't yet, and he ended up missing 15 months because of a concussion.
He missed about a season and a half.
Yeah, he missed a season and a half, and he's never been. And he's come back, and he's still good. I mean, it's not. Don't get me wrong.
He's a productive player. But the problem is with star players like that, especially at the level that Sidney Crosby is, and I'm not even a Sidney Crosby fan, but I know he's one of the best out there right now, you're going to get people hunting for him.
Yeah.
And he's going to get hit, and he's going to take hits, and not all of them are going to be clean.
No, and even then, he just missed that long. And, now he's good, and not that he's going to be bad 15 years from now, but, I mean, Eric Lindros came into the league, and it was expected, they called him, the next one or everything. They were comparing him to Wayne Gretzky when he came out, and ironically, and I hate to compare it because it's a terrible thing that happened to Lindros when he got hurt, but he had concussions. He had head injuries, and they, now they were trying to give Crosby a big, decade and a half long contract. I mean, imagine what would have been like if the Flyers, when they had Lindros, if they gave him a 15-year contract and then he gets hurt, you'd have to deal. He'd probably still be under contract. I mean,
they'd be shooting themselves in the foot. And it's kind of like what the Islanders are doing with DiPietro right now.
Exactly, it's what the Islanders did with DiPietro. I mean, Alex Ovechkin signed a huge contract, but
he's been lucky.
He's been
very lucky
so far. You can't. It makes no sense. And these owners, they keep allowing these big, massive, contracts to come in, and what happens is it's a terrible. They end up at the end of it, they're not going to be good contracts because. The guy's not going to be the same player 12 years from now.
I think anytime you sign a player for more than 5 to 6 years, you're taking a risk. You're rolling the dice, and I get what you're doing. You're saying, hey, we're going to sign this guy for 7, 10, I don't know, X amount of years. We have faith that this guy is going to produce at the same level, if not increase his productivity on our team year by year. He's going to get good. He's going to, hopefully we want him to plateau with us. And then when he starts, to fall off, boot them out, send them to a different city. I get that part of it, but if you sign anyone for more than 5 to 6 years, you're taking a chance. You're rolling the dice. You don't know health issues. You don't know if he's gonna have a change of heart and say, maybe, you know what, hockey's not for me anymore. Maybe I want to go do something else. I mean, it's very rare that happens. Professional athletes stick to their sport,
rarely, yeah,
but it could happen.
Yeah, it could. And the other thing is, a lot of them, what they do is they give them those contracts and say, okay, we know we're going to take a hit at the end of the contract because they're not going to be worth the money, but you hope they're at least, meeting that value, in the present, when they in the early part of the contract, you hope they exceed that value, and then so that you're going to have a lower return on investment. But it doesn't make sense to do that. And and then there's still problems with these teams. I mean, look at the owners of Phoenix. Phoenix had declared bankruptcy, and they were going through bankruptcy court trying to sell the team. And
well, luckily the NHL bought it.
Yeah. Thankfully they did, and it's it's sad that the league had to own a team, and I don't think they've sold it. They still haven't sold yet.
I think they still own it.
They still own it. I thought they were close at one point. They may be. I don't even remember anymore with this lockout now. Nobody cares. But it's just there's no there's just that's just the state of it. They came out of a lockout and a team declared bankruptcy. So it's kind of, they came out of the 2004 lockout. They were all doing fairly well. And, amazingly, and that's the other thing, I mean, they're not going to have a problem. That's why they can do this. The league knows that, hey, they understand the business that, look at the hockey fans. Hockey fans are far and away among all the major sports the most loyal.
Yes.
They're the smallest of the 4 major sports, but they are far and away more loyal than virtually any other sports league fans. And the league knows this, so they know that, hey, they're going to miss they're going to miss time. They'll come right back. Basketball had a bit of a problem, after their lockout. They didn't miss much time. They only missed a couple months of the regular season. But the NHL knows that they come back, they're going to have probably at least 90% of their fans.
Well, here's the thing is you have the lockout, which isn't really helping. But, I mean, it also affects, it affects the teams. It affects, look at Atlanta. Yeah. You had Atlanta come into the league. They didn't really do much of anything any of the years that they were a team.
Yeah, exactly.
They shipped them off to Winnipeg. They brought back the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 for a lot of teams. It's good if you have a lot of players that are on IR, or if you have a lot of players coming back from injury. You give them a little more time to develop, especially with your rookies. You can get them a little more time to develop. But it's the problem with this lockout, and it's right now the lockout's fine. You canceled preseason games. Preseason games, whatever. I mean, I get preseason. It's to develop your players. Fine, whatever. I think it was Barry Melrose, and he said it, and it's absolutely true. No one's losing a paycheck right now.
Yeah.
Players aren't losing a paycheck. The owners aren't losing a paycheck. The arenas aren't losing any money right now. When that starts to happen, I guarantee something will be done, and we'll have hockey.
You know what, though? They said that. They said that back in 2004. Yeah. They said that in 2004. They said that with the NBA, and sure, the NBA didn't miss much time, but they missed regular season time. I just don't think that there's any, you're right that it'll get more intense once they start missing paychecks. But even then, the arenas aren't going to miss anything because most of these cases, the owners of the team run the arena. A lot of the times you see that happen with the owner,
Mm-hmm.
They run the arena and they'll just book it every day. They'll book other events while the NHL isn't.
The arenas themselves will be fine because, like you said, they can always book entertainment. Yeah. They can book masses of whatever they want to book. I mean, you can have circuses there, monster truck, whatever. The list goes on.
Yeah.
But the real problem is the owners and the players. No one's lost a paycheck. They're not worried about it. The second these guys come out here and it's about a month, maybe 2 into the season, and there's no hockey and no one's getting paid.
Yeah.
They're going to be over there going, hey, let's try to bang this out.
The one thing, the players have been going overseas, and that's the thing you notice, even in basketball they did that, which was a little more, they haven't been doing that recently, but hockey did that, in 2004, so many of them went over.
A few players just signed with the KHL.
Yeah, look at, back in 2004, Jaromir Jagr went out to went out to Russia and to Siberia pretty much, and he came back. First of all, it was great for the Rangers because when he came back loving hockey. As I'm pretty sure he said he loved hockey for the first time in a really long time. So he came back and he was good. But then after his contract with the Rangers went up, he shipped off to Russia for 3 years.
Yep.
He went off to Russia. He's like, you know what? I don't want to play in the NHL anymore.
No, he came back last year for the Flyers. Now he's in Dallas.
Yeah.
So
and then some of them will just leave, they up and leave, and some of them might not come back. And the other thing is, Rick Nash is playing over in Europe right now, and he got hurt.
Yep.
He got hurt. I think they said it was a shoulder, and they didn't think it was serious, but still, the Rangers just traded away a bunch of players. Brandon Dubinsky and a couple other guys.
Brandon Dubinsky and Nisimov.
Yeah, Nisimov.
And there's one
couple other people. And
they got rid of Prust, Fedotenko.
Yeah, and they gave up these good players for Rick Nash, who's a superstar, and then they have the lockout, and now he goes over to Europe and he's hurt. Now, thankfully, they don't think it's serious, but I mean, as I said, if he got hurt, he's going to be suspended without pay if he gets hurt in Europe, from the NHL, and it kills the Rangers. So, and that's got to be that can't be the only injury that anybody ever has out there. I mean, there's got to be more. It's just the way the world works with injuries. It's the way the sports world works. So they're all going to be hurt, and then they're going to miss time. It's going to affect the product on the ice, and that's the big issue. Once it affects the product on the ice. Because that's hockey is successful because it has such a loyal fan base, and because the product is so entertaining. It's so well done on the ice. So once you start players getting hurt and then all that, then they're going to start, that's when the fans might start to, not be happy. So they really had we want them to get a deal. They need to get a deal. Everybody wants them to get a deal because we want to see hockey back. But I mean, it's such a risky proposition. This whole lockout's just a very risky proposition, not in terms of the finances, but in terms of player safety. They're going overseas. I mean, the thing that got me, I remember it was 2008, I think it was 2008 or 2009. There was this kid, the Rangers prospect, who was in Russia at the time, and they had, I guess you could say, they had inferior, emergency personnel. The kid died.
Yeah.
It was Cherepanov, I think his name was, and he just died. He had I don't know if he had a heart condition or he just had a heart issue, and then he died on the bench. Yeah, he died. And they didn't have an ambulance there. They didn't have the proper emergency personnel to take care of him, and he ended up dying. They even said that if they had the proper personnel there, he would be fine. But he would have lived. But he died. And this guy was going back to the ice, this kid was a first-round pick for the Rangers. They were expecting him to do big things, and he never got the chance to do it. And unfortunately, it's absolutely terrible because he's deceased now. But, it's just absolutely terrible. And, these guys are going over there where there's inferior medical personnel, and they risk injury, and, God forbid something serious happens. So it's just not good for the NHL at all. It's not good for the NHL. It's not good for the league. It's not good for the players. They need to get something done, but unfortunately they need, the owners, and it makes sense. They got to make money. So they got to make sure they get the best business model they can.
Exactly. NHL, get your lockout done. We're going to switch over to the Jets now.
Yep. All right. We'll be right back in a moment.
Oh, man. Looks like rain. Don't you think? It's summertime again, and that means it's also rainy season, which, along with being on an island, increases your risk of flooding. This is Wolfgang Farrell with Dennis A. Miller Insurance. And did you know that over 90% of all natural disasters in the U.S. involve flooding, making it the #1 natural disaster in the United States? On average, flooding causes $2 billion worth of property damage annually. You need to be protected from the worst by the best, and that's Dennis A. Miller. At Dennis A. Miller Insurance, we have been insuring people for over 15 years, and we will insure your house, boat, and auto. Don't wait till it's too late. Call Dennis A. Miller at 516-432-9245. Once again, that number is 516-432-9245, or visit us online at floodagent.com. Dennis A. Miller Insurance, 60 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York.
I know you've said, I could do better than that while watching TV or listening to the radio. Well, the only way to find out is to learn how it's done and then do it yourself. The best way to learn is by attending the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. The teaching style of CSB is not like a collegiate course. Here's one of our graduates to tell you a little about how our school runs.
I could flip through pages of a book at home. Here, I got to actually work with real equipment that real professionals are working with today.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you learn by doing, not by reading a book. And the men and women teaching aren't just educators, they are industry professionals who have experience in the world of broadcasting. CSB has been using this style of teaching to train students for on-air and behind-the-scenes careers since 1964. CSB has state-of-the-art equipment in all 12 of their locations, ranging from Boston all the way down to Miami, including one here in Westbury on Long Island. Schedule a studio tour today by calling 1-800-TV-RADIO or by visiting us at GoCSB.com. That's GoCSB.com.
Wolfgang Farrell.
And Pete Cody, we are back, and you know what? We were talking about the NHL lockout. Now we're going to talk about it's right here and now. It's Monday afternoon, and last night, yesterday afternoon, the New York Jets played the San Francisco 49ers. And you know what? I misspoke. They didn't play them. The San Francisco 49ers played a bunch of people in green and white that imitated the Jets. It was absolutely atrocious. The final was 34-0. The Jets did not do a single thing on offense. They didn't do anything on defense.
20 possessions. 20 possessions yesterday. You know how many times they went anything but 3 and out? Once.
Yeah.
Opening drive. First down, and then that resulted in a punt.
Yeah, the whole game. And you know what? Sometimes you'll see these where like, oh, okay, even like the Pittsburgh game. The defense played really good in the Pittsburgh game. The offense was terrible, and then the defense just got exhausted from playing all game. Being on the field.
12 possessions. My fault. I think it said 20.
Yeah, 12, yeah. I was going to say 20 was an awful lot for no.
20.
But
20,
yeah,
20.
I mean.
Or 12. What the? Jeez Louise. I'm on 20 for some reason.
You know what, though? It could have been 20. They could have had 30. They could have had 1,000,000, and they still would have been shut out. They still would have punted on every time or gotten a turnover or turned the ball over. They were that embarrassing. And that's what it was. It was.
They couldn't even punt.
Yeah,
they had a block punt.
They had a block punt, and the block punt was late. The block punt was late in the game, and they rushed one guy. They didn't even try to block the punt. The one guy got through, and he blocked the punt. But everybody played back, and the punter had a good game. I mean, honestly, I'll be fair. The punter had a pretty decent game.
I wish I had him on my fantasy. He would have done great.
It would have been great. Unfortunately, they don't do punters for fantasy.
They do now.
They
ESPN.
Do? Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that.
ESPN, in certain leagues, you have every position.
That is awesome. I did not even know that. I have no clue how they grade punters, but it's awesome. Anyway,
I don't either, but
back to the topic. It makes no sense. Why? I mean, I know this team is not. I'm finally up to the point now. I am the most optimistic Jet fan, which is, I know it's an oxymoron, but I'm the most optimistic Jet fan I've ever met, and just watching this team, it was an embarrassment. I'm sitting at the bar watching the game, and I'm like, I at points I'm sitting there and I'm looking down at my beer and my food, and I can't even watch. It's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment to. It's an embarrassment to the fans. I mean, I'm watching there, and there's Giant fans who are there just because they're there. The Giants weren't playing until the night, and they're there and mocking me pretty much the whole game. And
the Giants lost 19-17 last night anyway.
Yeah, but they didn't know that at the point, so they felt they could mock, and they could. They won the Super Bowl.
Then again, the Giants did put points on the board last night.
Yeah, and they won the Super Bowl last year. They could talk all they want, but I mean, just everybody. Look, Mark Sanchez had a terrible game, and look, I can't give him all the blame. You can't give him all the blame because, and this was the shocking part for me. The offensive line normally is pretty good. Nick Mangold's one of the best centers in the league, easily.
If not the best.
Yeah, if not the best, he's top 2 or 3. DeBrickashaw Ferguson's a good left tackle. And Slauson's pretty decent, and Brandon Moore's a Pro Bowler, and even Austin Howard is he's what he is. He's the weak spot, but he's not terrible.
No, he'll block.
He's much better than Wayne Hunter, because then again, I'd be much better than Wayne Hunter. But
we need to bring back Jumbo Elliott.
Yeah, he'll catch a ball too. He'll catch a ball. But I mean, even then, Sanchez would drop back. He'd take a 7-step drop, and he's got the defense in his face. Yeah. I mean, he's dropping back into the defense. And how can, and he can't play passes like that. And if on the one or two times the line did not completely fold, what happened? You look around and the wide receivers can run around for days and not get open. Now, I know they got injuries. Hill was out for the game. Justin Keller was out for the game.
Holmes went down.
That's a whole different story. But even before then, Holmes was the only guy they had yesterday. Chaz Schillen started at wide receiver.
Chaz Schillens?
Exactly. He was with Oakland, and you know what?
It was so bad yesterday. I switched to NASCAR.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't blame you. You know what? Most people
switch to NASCAR.
Most people switch to the Ryder Cup, which I wish I did. I actually was on in the bar a couple TVs over, but
I would, but I felt like I needed excitement.
I was loyal to a fault. Are you watching NASCAR? Well, anyway.
left turns are a little more appealing to me than putting
left
ball
turns
on
and the risk of a crash. I understand completely, but
you gotta have crashes are why I watch NASCAR.
Exactly. That's what
and anyone that says different's a liar.
A lot of those casual fans will say that. Anyway, it was so bad. And most people switched to golf, which actually did great ratings, apparently.
Yeah, but we lost.
Yeah, well, that's why.
We lost to freaking Europe.
Yeah, well, that's why. But anyway, just everybody played. The defense, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. I could have ran the ball for 200 yards off them. I mean, the secondary, they didn't get beat deep. Well, they didn't get beat deep because Alex Smith overthrew the wide receivers. He had, Wilson had a bad day. He had two balls. He had the receiver beat him deep twice. The receiver had nobody in front of him, and the ball was overthrown. So twice they ended up getting lucky, and I think I saw one time it was still 10-0 at the time, so it's somewhat excusable. And one time, Wilson gets beat, and then the receiver drops the ball, and Wilson's, pointing, and it's like, nah, you didn't catch that. And it's like, well, you failed, Wilson. Stop taunting. You're losing, and you failed. There's no reason to taunt. And just, it's so embarrassing.
I must say, it was kind of cool to see Kaepernick score a touchdown.
It was, and honestly, it was kind of ironic because they're running the Wildcat formation, which is what the Jets brought Tim Tebow in to do. I
didn't know Kaepernick was so tatted up.
Yeah, neither did I. I didn't remember
I saw his arms, and I was like, wow.
I'm not going to lie, I don't remember that.
All right, Kaepernick.
I saw him play that, I saw him at Nevada, and I don't remember if he did or not, but I didn't think he did, so he must have gotten them in San Francisco, but hey.
Hey, it's that paycheck.
Exactly, he can afford it now. It's not like, he can't get it over there. It's not like Ohio State or something.
They're not on a lockout, so they got all the money they can.
But actually that's kind of ironic because we're talking about that. And Tim Tebow, the Jets brought Tim Tebow in, contrary to what the ESPN, the media wants to tell you. They want to tell you they brought him in to be the starting quarterback. No, they brought him in to run the Wildcat. Now the problem with that is, guess what they're not doing?
Running the Wildcat.
Exactly. Tim Tebow played probably about 3 plays on offense all game. They bring him in to block. They bring him in to run a route. You just put him in as the Wildcat quarterback, which is what you brought him here to do. When you said it, the Jets said when they signed him, they bring him here to replace Brad Smith. And he'll replace Brunell. Which is fine because that's what he is on the depth chart at quarterback. So we could replace Mark Brunell to be the backup quarterback, quote unquote, but actually play, which is more than you could say for every other backup quarterback in the league.
If you're not going to use Tebow as the backup quarterback that you said he is, put in McElroy.
Yeah,
put him in.
I mean that
I'm a Jets fan. He's the only one that scored a touchdown in the preseason, and he's your third string freaking quarterback.
Yeah.
Put him in. I would have. I was watching the game last night when I decided to flip back from NASCAR. It was fourth quarter with 3 minutes left, and Sanchez takes the field.
Yeah,
Are you freaking serious?
I was the same way. You know what? They could have at least put Tebow in. They couldn't put McElroy was inactive for the game, so they couldn't put him in. But they could have at least
put Tebow in.
Yeah,
I don't even like Tebow. I'd have been happy with him in. Why would you put? You're down 34-0.
Yeah.
Why would you put Sanchez in the game?
Yeah.
He's not producing. Your receivers aren't getting open. Tebow can at least scramble and get some yards with his feet.
Yeah, and I don't want to, and this isn't, because I'm not even going at it as the Mark Sanchez is terrible, pull him out of the game. I'm looking at it as it's a blowout. You take your starters out of the game.
Yes, no risk injury.
All the teams take out their starters. Now, you just mentioned injury. We got to talk about it. When it was 17-0, and Santonio Holmes catches a pass. I know that's the biggest shock. They actually caught a pass, but Sanchez actually completed a few passes. And he catches the ball, and and then
takes a very awkward step.
Yeah, and he looks like he tried to cut and go whatever, and then all of a sudden, he falls to the ground
and kind of threw the ball.
Yeah, he threw the ball. He didn't even. He fell to the ground and
at least throw it out of bounds.
Well,
I mean, you're in the middle of an injury. I can't really say anything.
And that was the problem. And it looked like Rivas last week. It looked like the same thing, and instead of with the best.
But Rivas walked off, didn't he?
Yeah, so did Holmes though. So Holmes
he was carted off.
Well, Rivas got carted off from the sideline to the locker room, also. But they both managed to get off the field without a cart.
All
but.
Right. So I mean, I don't think it's a serious.
They already said
if he can walk, and I don't think it's an Achilles injury.
Well, they said he's going to miss weeks. They're not sure, but they've already said he's going to be out for weeks. The doctors.
I'll
they
take
don't even,
weeks over the season.
You know what? I don't even care anymore. I mean, honestly, I hate to be that so pessimistic, but it's just that's so after
let's start McElroy and keep Tebow as their wildcat.
You know what?
I'm down for anything.
I would put. I'm not changing the quarterback yet. It's too early. I don't want to give. You can't give up on the quarterback while you still got $20 million in guaranteed money coming towards them.
Go get wide receivers.
Yeah, well, exactly. We were talking last night. We were texting back and forth after the game last night, and it's just what, if Santonio Holmes is out for the season. You've already lost Darrelle Revis for the season. I don't care what they say. They're thinking about leaving him and then bringing him back for the playoffs. You're not making the playoffs.
You're not making
like
the playoffs,
that.
Jets.
And he
not if you play this way.
And he tore his ACL. He's not coming back, and he won't be ready to play until June.
Easily.
So unless there's unless the Mayans were right and then they magically were wrong a few months later, and yet everybody survived, and then they canceled. They postponed the Super Bowl. He's not coming back.
No.
So. You already lost your best defensive player, and your defense kind of proved they pretty much suck without him.
That's putting it nicely.
Well, yeah, but they only, what? Yeah, I was being really nice, and you know what? It was still too soon. They've actually signed a corner today. Eric Berry, the kiddos with
Eric Berry,
yeah,
from the Chiefs.
No. He was the guy from the Lions. He was the guy that got arrested twice.
That's promising. Let's just bring convicts in.
Well, maybe you know what, though?
Maybe they'll hit someone. Who knows?
He got cut. Well, we do have the magical power of Tim Tebow to guide him in the right direction.
Yeah, just send have
a weekend
at Tebow's.
But you know what? His third-year player, he was promising, and actually the second arrest was nullified, if I recall correctly. They even, they're like, yeah, we made a mistake. We're sorry. But the Lions cut him in the offseason.
Bring him in. Bring the convicts in. Let's make the New York Jets the new Oakland Raiders.
No, you know what? As I told you, and we'll get back to that. You're going to lose anyway. You know what they should do if they lost Holmes for the season? Sign Terrell Owens and sign Chad Johnson, and at least lose entertainingly.
Hey, they're both good receivers that are doing what? Nothing right now.
Nothing right now.
Sitting on their couch going, and T.O.'s going, I only made $4,000 with the Seahawks. So what? Guess what? Give him $4,000 for a game. Let him see what he does. If he can freaking do something productive, give him a contract. Bring in Chad Johnson because he got cut from the Dolphins because he likes to headbutt people. So bring him in. Maybe he'll headbutt you a freaking touchdown.
But you know what? Here's the thing. From what I remember hearing, he had a good preseason with the Dolphins.
He had a great preseason.
He was looking really good, and then all of a sudden
he decides to headbutt people.
He got into an altercation with his then wife, who's a reality star wife. They are divorced or annulled. I don't remember which happened.
Well, there's a lot of rumors flying around that she's all about the cha-ching.
Exactly.
Catch my drift.
So look, he did wrong, and he
I'm not defending him. I'm not defending him at all.
The thing is, and they're talking they might suspend him. How can you suspend the guy? This is his first problem with the law.
Chad Johnson?
Chad Johnson.
How are you going to suspend him? He doesn't have a team.
Well, that's the other problem. But they should. But I mean, that's a different story altogether. But still, this is his first altercation with the law he's had in his NFL career. Everybody acts.
That's true.
Everybody acts like
true.
Chad Johnson's this big convict and jackass.
He's not a convict. He's a jackass.
He's a clown. He's a clown. He's a jester. He's an entertainer. He's not. And
it's like I said. He's a great player. I just personally think he's an idiot.
He's an idiot. He is. He's an entertaining idiot, but he's an idiot.
Yeah, I'll give you that. He's an entertaining idiot.
He's an entertaining idiot who before this incident does not get in trouble with the law. So, you know what? Bring him. I'd say bring him in. Bring Terrell Owens in, and just what? First of all, you'll give your quarterback weapons to throw to. No,
I don't know why the Seahawks cut T out.
They.
You got Golden Tate.
Yeah, look, Golden Tate's pretty good. I like Golden Tate.
No, Golden Tate's great. But that's it.
Well, they got Braylon Edwards, too. And I'll say this.
And where's he been this season?
He's been on the field. He's
not been very productive.
Well,
Golden Tate got that, quote-unquote game-winning touchdown agast the Packers.
Hey, you know what?
Where's Braylon Edwards?
It was a game-winning touchdown.
It was. I'm a Seahawks fan. Go Hawks. I'm not, I'm not saying anything.
It was a
touchdown, whatever, Packers. Cry about it later.
Hey, you know what? The ruling on the field is a touchdown, so therefore it's a game-winning touchdown. Who cares whether...
The only reason I was upset that the Seahawks got awarded that touchdown, and I'm a Seahawks fan, I don't really care much about the Packers, but if the Packers miss the playoffs, it's coming back to that Monday night game in Week 3, going, well, if we didn't lose to the Seahawks on that very controversial call, we would be in the playoffs. And you know what? No. One game in Week 3 is not going to change your entire season. It might affect you for a week, maybe 2. then it's time to put on your big boy pants and go out there and play some ball.
Yeah, and you know what though? They won this week, so they won.
Well, they played the Saints.
Well, good point. The Saints are probably the worst team in the league right now.
Even the Chiefs beat the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, but still,
come on.
They should just, as I said, sign. Jets just need to sign. At least make it fun. Terrell Owens, and he got cut because he dropped 7 passes in like 2 games in the preseason. He actually was looking terrible.
He looked like garbage. But in the same instance, you have Russell Wilson, great quarterback. He's for a rookie. Let me rephrase that.
He looks promising. I can't call the kid a great quarterback. He's played 4 games in the NFL. He's looking.
But they have a winning record, don't they? Oh, they're 2-2. They're 500.
Yeah. So does Mark Sanchez. So, you know what?
Where's McElroy?
Exactly. You know what? You're going to say, oh, he's got to win. Well, so does Mark Sanchez.
Well, here's the problem with Seattle. And like I said, I'm a Seahawks fan. You pay all this money to bring in Matt Flynn. Why is he riding your bench?
Because they like Russell Wilson better. You know what? I can't blame them. They think if they think they stumbled onto a gold mine, and they didn't, you know what? They drafted him probably not expecting him to be in the 5th round. That's probably why they drafted him. They drafted him because, wow, we found a guy that could be a franchise quarterback in the 5th round.
I hope he is.
And they're paying him nothing because they're paying him for a 5th round pick.
That's true.
And if they think he's going to be that good, they should definitely start him if they think he's the answer. You know what? Matt Flynn, and I hate to say it because he gets, you know what? He looked okay and he looked fine in Green Bay, but he made, you know what? You can't help what happened. Russell Wilson came, was a buzzsaw. He just came in and he won the job. That was the thing. He did. And Matt Flynn didn't play bad. Russell Wilson just played that good. They had to give him that job. And now Flynn is stuck being a backup again. And you know what? Maybe they keep him and then,
Maybe Flynn just wanted to change the scenery.
Well, he wanted to start. I can't,
Maybe he was just like, you know what? Green Bay's a little cold this time of year.
Yeah. Well, that's thing, at his credit, he went to Seattle to start.
Does it snow in Seattle? I always see it rain. I don't ever see it snow.
It rains every day in Seattle. I don't know. Probably. I mean, it probably. Yeah, it does because the Jets went out to Seattle at one point and Sean Ellis threw snow into the crowd. So yeah, they get snow. They get snow there.
That's right.
But yeah, so they just got to do. Just get. The Jets need to sign. Going back to the Jets need to do something to at least be entertaining because at this point it looks like they're going to have a top 10 draft pick. And you know what? If that happens, I would not at all be surprised. I don't think they'll fire Rex Ryan, Because,
No, there's no reason to.
But I would not at all be surprised if they fire Mike Tannenbaum, because this is,
I think if you have a season where you have a top 10 pick, you don't fire Rex Ryan. You give him one more year. You got to remember, the first 2 years he brought a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
To the AFC Championship game. The next year, he brought the same quarterback to the AFC Championship game. Last year, they decided to change up their scheme. They finished 8-8, missed the playoffs. You can't go from what's working and decide to switch it up all of a sudden. It's not going to work.
No, and he's struggling right now. But you can't fire Rex Ryan for this, especially with the injuries. But the person you can fire, and probably will and should, is Tannenbaum, the general manager.
Get him out of there.
The book is, or the team's terribly built.
What's Parcells doing nowadays?
Parcells is he's retired. He's not coming back to. He's not going to be a GM.
Throw him a ton of cash. He'll do it.
And you know what though, that ship sailed. And I don't want to bring. You know what? I don't want to bring him in, and then he's going to have to bring in his own coach and give Rex Ryan another year. But here's the thing: if they get a top 10 draft pick,
get a receiver.
I don't know if they're going to do that. They might go quarterback. They might go quarterback and say, you know what? They'll go quarterback, and Mark Sanchez has no more money coming to him after 2013. And
does he not? He really doesn't?
He has no more guaranteed money after 2013. They can get rid of him for nothing after that.
Mm-hmm. Kick rock, Sanchez.
And if he does, and if they have a top 10 pick and he doesn't play well, I would not be surprised if they get a quarterback, because if you have a top 10 draft pick, chances are you're getting a good, a franchise caliber quarterback, or a chance at that. A chance at that.
You have a chance at that. You got to remember Chris Winkie.
Yeah,
Ryan Leaf,
and yeah.
there's plenty of quarterbacks that were a bust.
But still, you have that guy that's going to be the guy that's going to be your friend. The face of the franchise for at least the short term. You hope for the next long term successfully. So
you know what? I hate when quarterback and any player comes out in the first round in the draft and is a bust. I don't like it. It bothers me. It bothers me not only for the team that drafted him, but it bothers me for the player. It's like, and I get it. I mean, your first round draft pick, you have a lot of pressure put on you from the second you walk across that stage, grab that hat and that jersey. I get it. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to deal with, especially for a young kid. They're younger than me. I'm 23, and they're younger than me getting drafted.
Yeah, they have a ton of pressure, but if they don't, it's just they get rewarded for that pressure.
Of course,
they're compensated for that, and
they get tossed a lot of money. Yeah. But I just read last night that 78% of all former NFL players are bankrupted in the first 2 years of retirement.
Well, yeah, because they have no more money.
Because they're stupid.
And it's not even just that, but and some of these guys might not be all that stupid. But if you look at this, they can get stuck in a bad investment. They could have gotten swindled by a bad investment. They could have gotten swindled by a Madoff-like case.
Read the fine print on anything you sign.
But even then, what's happening is these guys are making millions of dollars, and then they're making nothing. But they're still being, they're still in that higher tax bracket. They're still living, they're still there.
Yeah, they make a lot of money, so they pay less taxes than everyone else. I get it.
Well, I know where you're getting at, but these guys aren't paying less taxes than everybody. They're not skirting the system like that. And they're getting, but they're also not getting any more money. Once you retire, they're not getting paid. They're not.
Unless you come up with an endorsement.
Those are the only.
Like Troy Aikman.
But most of those, but that's not everybody. And a guy like Troy Aikman's not bankrupt. A guy that's still making those,
Well, Troy Aikman's also a commentator.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They're also getting paid still. A lot of these guys, they retire and then they're gone. They're out
they don't do anything.
They're out of the public eye. They're out of, they don't have any money coming in. So what else, you can't, I don't want to say you can't blame them for going broke, but, they lived a life. First of all, they outlived their life. They lived outside of their means. They had, they did a poor job realizing that they need to save their money to live for the rest of their lives, and they don't.
Well, here's a kind of a morbid turn on the whole retirement thing. Junior Seau.
Yeah.
One of my favorite linebackers ever to play the game.
And now he,
But here's the thing. They try to link suicide in a couple of the former NFL players to concussions.
Yes.
I don't remember Seau having a lot of...
Oh, he did.
Having a lot.
Oh, he did.
Not enough to do that.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not diagnosed, but he had, just because they didn't call it a concussion, but they were getting concussed. Just because he's not diagnosed with a concussion and left the game, I mean, when he gets lit up and he's, slowly getting up before they play, those guys had hundreds of them. Hundreds.
Oh, sure they do.
Hundreds of concussions. And that's why, these guys' brains, they're, well, honestly, like, if they look at these brains, they even compare them to, like, 80-year-old dementia patients. And they're 40.
Yeah.
They're 40 years old. And
I mean, your perfect example, it's not football, but a wrestler, Chris Benoit.
Exactly.
He was maybe 40, maybe 42,
he was like 40,
I think,
40,
something like that.
Early, like 40 at the latest.
And he had the brain of an 85-year-old man.
Yeah, with dementia.
Yeah.
And ultimately committed a terrible act and, killed his wife and son and himself. And, but that's just, that's the problem. It's a different problem for a different conversation for a different day. And I could talk about that forever. Because,
well, I mean, I just kind of try to relate it to the whole linking, the concussions to suicide. And wrestling, whether it's, scripted or not, there's risks, and same with football.
Yeah.
I mean, football's not scripted. I'm not saying football's scripted.
No, but there's risks.
But it's a fast-paced game. It's a hard-hitting game.
If you ask the Packers, they might say otherwise.
Yeah. But, yeah, Monday night.
All right.
No, it's it's a fast-paced game, and a lot of the times players get a rep for being a little over aggressive, and I get it. I mean, it's a fast-paced game. You can't sit there and tell me that every single hit you're going to throw on a guy is going to be perfectly clean. You're going to square him up perfectly. It's too fast.
No,
it's too fast to even.
It can happen, but the problem is a lot of these guys, they aim for these hits. I mean, that's why I like a guy like James Harrison.
I don't like him.
He is.
I don't like him.
I have not a single nice thing to say about that man, because he flat out admits that he aims for, these types of head injuries and will continue to do so, and does not understand that, you're going to get fined, and he should be suspended. And
I hate that when he gets fined, he complains about it.
Yeah.
Shut up.
You know what? And he said when they first started finding him, was like, okay, I'm going to retire because I can't play. You know what? I absolutely wish you did.
I do
because
too.
You know what? And here's the thing that scares me.
Who did he lay out last year? Massaquoi on the Browns?
Yes. And Cribbs.
Killed him.
And Cribbs.
Killed him.
Same game. It was
Disgusting
this year, or last year or the year before. It was despicable hits. The one was, it wasn't a good hit, but one was very, very egregious. The other was slightly less so, but still, both these players in the same game, and those were the two best players on the team. No wonder the Steelers won that game. And it's just insane that this guy thinks that he can,
Anytime you have a guy on your team that admits to headhunting, admits that he's out there to hurt someone, if I was the GM of the Steelers, I'd cut him.
No,
whether or not he's your best player or not, you can't afford to have someone like that on your team.
No, you can't, because in this day and age, and you know what, he hasn't had really an issue yet. You know why? Because he hasn't played. He's hurt. He's been hurt right now, so he hasn't been playing. I can't really fault him for making mistakes right now because he's on the sidelines.
That's where he belongs.
Honestly, he does. He belongs
on the sideline. I'm not saying he belongs injured, but he belongs on the sideline.
He should. They need to draw a line, and you know what? Roger Goodell suspends people. He should he should ban Harrison.
I don't think he's been suspended.
I don't remember. He might have been for one game, but I don't think he has yet. They should, if it keeps going like that, they should throw him out of the league. Flat out throw him out of the league. You know what? Suspend him indefinitely, and just, all you gotta do is really suspend him indefinitely. Suspend him for a year. He'll probably be gone. He's in his mid-30s, I think, now.
Yeah.
He's not a young man anymore.
I mean, look what they did to the Saints with the bounty charges. They suspended everyone. I mean, sure, now they're appealing it. Everyone's back except for Sean Payton.
But they'll be back. They'll be suspended again, soon.
Yeah. I mean, you suspended them. Suspend this guy. Yeah. He's admitting to taking headshots on people.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
this isn't Call of Duty.
No,
can't be taking headshots, bro. Sorry.
But and this is the problem with. Going back to what we talked about earlier with CBAs, that's really the problem. They're not allowed to, per the CBA. The bounty stuff is something that the league has, that the commissioner and the league have 100%, control over. They like, you do this, we can do whatever we want to you. The CBA doesn't allow I don't think it allows all those exceedingly intense fines and punishments and suspensions. So it's probably why they're not, but it's insane. And how and the player, both sides talk about player safety, yet they allow players like James Harrison, who admits to headhunting, consistently does it. They still allow him to play. And you know what? There's a guy taking his place right now, Taylor Mays. He's on.
I actually have him in my fake league in Madden.
Yeah,
he's a good linebacker.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was Taylor Mays. He was one of the safeties. I think it's not Kansas City. It's Cincinnati, and he's just and there was a play in the preseason game against the Jets where they didn't throw a flag, but it was like the replacement refs didn't throw a flag, but I'm surprised.
Oh, really? What a shock!
It is. They didn't throw a flag. That's shocking. And then they didn't throw a flag when they should have. And then there's been a couple times this season, I think. At least one, I thought there were 2 or 3, maybe there were more, I don't remember, that he had the same thing where it's just, and it's blatant launching at the guy, launching at a defenseless receiver, helmet, head first. And it's just, I mean, honestly, he's starting to take the place of James. He's not replacing James Harrison, but he's kind of getting to that same level of this guy. It really they need to do something just to get rid of him.
I wish there was a way that you could take the symptoms of a concussion and temporarily put him into someone and put it into James Harrison.
Well, see, the thing
is, just have him realize yo, this is what these guys go through.
He knows
Stop
it.
hitting people in the head.
The problem is he knows it. He does it anyway because you know what happens? He gets them too because he launches with his head, so he's getting hit too.
We need to make a whack-a-mole game
with James Harrison. That would be awesome.
Whack-a-Harrison, and we'll dress him up as a rabbit. Because rabbits are hares.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Dude, best game ever.
Yeah, that would be funny, but that's probably never going to happen.
No.
The league won't allow it.
Maybe I'll talk him into it for charity.
Yeah, he'd probably do it because he doesn't care. You know what?
James Harrison.
He'd probably do it because he doesn't care about his own health, his head. He doesn't care about that stuff.
Oh, well, when he's 45 and drooling on himself and in a wheelchair, then I'm pretty sure he'll be like, oh, maybe I should.
I'm not worried about that. I'm not. Because at that point, he's doing it to himself. I'm more worried about the fact that this guy's. I don't want to say he's going to do what Junior Seau did, but
I think Seau was a rare case.
I don't think, considering it's happened, well over a dozen times, I can't call it much of a rare case anymore.
But the problem with that is everyone was saying how happy Seau was the day before.
But this,
But you know what? I guess it goes back to what they say. The happiest person, they're always the most oppressed.
Yep. Exactly. And just because he looked that doesn't mean, that could have been a very good act. And you know what? It probably was based on the fact that, days later, he did that to himself.
Shot himself in the chest, right?
Yeah, he shot himself, and that's the thing. A lot of these guys, there was, I wish I remember the guy's name. I think it was one of the Bears linebacker, from David Durson from the Bears. And this is I think it was 85 Bears even. This was an old, a while ago. And the guy, he purposefully, when he committed suicide by shooting himself in the chest so that they could study his brain so that they can sue the NFL. Because and it's he purposely did it this way. And that's the thing, and
you think that's what Seau might have been?
I don't want to get in. I don't want to get into that guy's head, into his head, because that's a scary place. Based on the fact that he did that to himself, and it's just not.
Well, do you think that might have at least crossed?
Probably, and that's probably why I did it to his chest. Because it's not the most effective. It's not not the most effective.
It's a little cleaner if you really want to get morbid with it.
We will not get that more. We're not going to get morbid with it, but it's more painful.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Intensely, there's an easier way to do it.
I don't know how you could do that. I shot myself in the hand with an airsoft gun, and that hurt. And I've been shot with paintballs, and that hurts. Like
these people that do this have serious mental problems. And
I think what the NFL needs to do is have a hug. Like, you have a program afterwards. Like, you know how like we have like wounded warriors and stuff like that for like like the vets that come back from
Yeah.
Shout out to the vets though. I like just set up a hugging thing. Like once a week, you got a big big dude, like a big dude that gives real good hugs, and he just comes to your house and hugs it out with you.
Yeah, exactly. They just need to have a hug it out.
Yeah,
they just need.
That's what the NHL needs.
That's what the NHL needs. You know what? The Jets need it too because they all suck.
The Jets need to have.
They need the guy, the big guy that you're talking about that hugs. You could probably they need to have him play line.
Yes.
He'll
just hug the defense and you're not going anywhere. Come here.
And then hug the referees so they don't throw a flag, and then just and
I'm so glad that the real refs are back.
Oh, they needed to be.
My boy Ed Hockley's back.
Oh yeah, that was so great.
Ed.
Just watching him.
The black referee.
Mike Carey. He's awesome.
The guy that I love him because he does this. He's like holding.
He's so
the defense.
Yeah, he's so intense. And then Ed Hockley's just like, look at me, I'm big. I'm gonna.
Ed Hockley's
I look
like I'm 65. I look like I'm 30.
Yeah,
I'm ripped. Like yes.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. They're awesome, and you know what? They're and the thing is, not only are they awesome and they're cool personalities, basically, they are the best in the world at what they do.
CM Punk shout out.
Chris Jericho shout out, actually.
Yeah.
They are the best in the world at what they do. Everybody wants to get on them like, they made a bad call. Well, you know what?
No one's saying anything about bad calls the rest of the season.
Nobody is perfect, okay? You go to work, I can guarantee you've made your mistakes.
Tonight's the first Monday night game with them back, right?
Yes, tonight is the first Monday night game with them back.
Cowboys and Bears.
Yeah, that'll be
The Bears.
It'll be fun. It's fun just to see how they're treated. This week because the referees never get any love, and they really deserve it because they're doing a thankless job. They're doing a very thankless job.
I think we should put them in Madden.
They are. There's talks that they're going to do it.
In 14?
Yes.
All right.
There is talks that they're going to actually have all the real refs in Madden next year.
I think they should.
Which would be
how
amazing.
awesome it would be to have Ed Hockley referee one of my games?
Well, he has.
Has he?
Yes. He has been doing the motion capture since Madden 2006.
Oh, I wish I knew that.
And they actually used his likeness for most of the years, and then a couple years they didn't use his likeness. But it's still, if you watch the referee in Madden, it's number 85, which is his number. And even the first down.
Fun facts about Madden.
Yeah, he actually has done the motion capture, and now there's talk that that they're going to put the referees association is going to get in on Madden.
They should.
Which it makes sense. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I kind of don't care if the side judge is the same, but
I'm talking the head ref.
The
I don't care about the side judges or the back judges or anything.
The referee and just have Mike Carey call my game and just be first down.
Yeah, I want Mike Carey. I want Ed Hockley. Whoever else is in the league.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone else but those two guys.
Yeah, those guys are you know what? If their personalities, there's like, oh, okay, you like these guys, and
but what's his name? The black guy. I keep
Mike Carey.
Mike Carey. He's not in bad shape himself.
No, he's pretty ripped too.
Ripped, big dude.
These guys, they got to realize they're doing a physical job. They got to be in.
These guys run with receivers.
Yeah, they run with wide receivers.
I can't run with a lineman, and these referees are running with freaking receivers.
And they're 3 times your age.
Yeah,
or twice your age.
And these guys are in their 40s. I'm 23. I'd be damned if I can run 100 yards at DeBurkashaw Ferguson.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
And these guys,
he beat me with a broken leg.
Yeah, these guys are, they're in very good shape. They're very, they're the best at what they do. They're very, they know the rules. And as you notice, I mean, even the calls, you know what? They're not going to make the calls right every time. But the one thing they do every time, you'll notice every play, if there's a pile, they immediately can get rid of it. They can immediately get you as soon as there's there's two, the two refs don't know, they want to confer to make sure they get the call right. You're not going to have one of these situations like on Monday where one says touchdown, one says interception. You're going to have a situation where they're going to look at each other. They're going to say, what do you think? This is what I think. They're going to follow the proper protocol. The referee is going to come in. They're going to let you know what the ruling on the field is. And then if they go to replay, they go to replay. So they always will follow the protocol. So it's just they know what they're doing.
I seen a picture of two replacement refs, and I laughed when I saw it because they were talking to each other, and it said, "No, I don't believe the receiver was down. He never touched second base. Touchdown Celtics."
Yeah,
and I thought
exactly.
It was so good.
And I know, it's unfair to them because they're. They were put in they're just doing a job that
they are. They're doing a job. The NFL is way too fast paced for them.
They were doing
They're
a
Division
job or worse. Some of them are high school. Some of them are. One of the guys was in the lingerie football league,
and he got kicked out.
Yeah,
he got kicked out of. How did he get kicked out of lingerie football league?
Well, I can think of some ways.
All right, touche. But
I can think of actually 4, but
I can think of a few too. But
well, yeah.
I'll
anyway, but
FCC.
These guys are doing their. They were doing. They did the job to the best of their abilities. They were insanely overmatched. I mean, as I compare it, it was like having a small business owner run a Fortune 500 company. They don't know what they're doing. And some of the rules were marginally different, but even then, the speed was just so too much for them. But they did a fair job.
Could you imagine being a high school player and the referee that's reffing your game just reffed an NFL game?
Yeah. Well, that happened on Friday on the Weekend Sports Center. They actually showed, hey, this is the guy that called the Green Bay touchdown. He's now doing a Texas high school game.
Oh,
they actually had him on. They showed on Sports Center him reffing a high school game. It was like, wow.
Texas high school football. That's where it's at, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, it really is. But I mean, it's just in Texas. That's where it's at.
Who cares about Texas?
Well, Texas.
Texas cares about Texas.
Exactly. Just like they say who cares about New York, and we say New Yorkers
care about New York. That's what cares about New York.
Bingo.
Everyone cares about New York.
Well,
we trade with everyone. We're awesome.
They should. We have 9 sports teams. Well,
we do everything.
Yeah, we do.
We even have a soccer team. What do you have, Texas?
The same.
Oh, yeah.
Texas has, let's see, 3 baseball teams.
3?
Yeah, Houston.
Oh, Houston. I forgot about Houston. I swear to God. No, they only have 2.
Maybe it is 2. Yeah,
it's only Houston and Texas.
Yeah, they have 2 baseball, 3 football.
2 football.
2 football, 3 basketball.
San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they have hockey, which don't get me started on that, but it's a different story for a different day.
What about soccer?
And they have soccer.
They don't have a curling team. Ha!
You're right. Well, are you sure about that?
No.
We'll have to look that up at some point. We'll have to look that up for next time.
But they're not famous.
Well, they don't have a famous curling team. Does anyone else?
I could make one.
It won't be famous.
Not right away.
God.
But it will be.
Of course it will be, because it's curling.
And curling.
Yeah. Anyway, we got to get back to the Jets before we head out of here.
All right. Wrap it up with the Jets. Who are they playing this week?
They are hosting on Monday Night Football.
Oh, yay.
The Houston Texans.
Wow. Okay, so Texans are going 5-0.
You know what? I'm not ready to say that yet.
I am.
You know what? No,
put a stamp on it. Send it out.
I'd all but guarantee that's probably going to happen. But you know what? Stranger things have happened. And that's the thing.
It's like good old Yogi Berra says, it ain't over till it's over.
Exactly. It ain't over till it's over. And you know what? You never know. Maybe this week is just what the Jets need to turn their season around and end the season 14-2.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, neither do I. But that's just.
If you would have said 2-14,
again, I'm optimistic here. I'm being way overly optimistic.
Optimistic prime.
Yeah, exactly. Optimistic Prime.
The new Transformer. Optimistic Prime.
Oh, Jesus.
Optimistic
yeah.
Prime. Jets roll out.
Anyway, we got to head out. I'm Pete Cody.
Yours truly, Wolfgang Farrow.
See you later.